Okay, well, good morning. Thank you everyone for joining. I just hit record so we can go back and send this to those who registered and couldn't come. And we're going to go over some interesting survey results. So I figured that would be smart to record so we can refer back to that later. Great to see everyone. We last met in February and connected for the first time this year. Excited to have Rich and Jennifer here as our co-chairs. So I'm going to pass it to them in a second to kick us off. But just glad to have everyone here. I know we have a couple new staff. So I'm glad that you all are able to join and hopefully learn about some new things. And if you're a veteran district employee, I think there's some good things for you to learn today as well. I will go ahead and toss it to you, Rich and Jennifer, if you want to start introductions, and the floor is yours.
Go, Jen, you're up.
Got it. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. As Morris said, we're going to be talking about some cool stuff today and hopefully get to share a lot. I think that's a lot of the reason why we are here, is to learn what others are doing and maybe improve upon what we're doing or try something new. Just good to get together. So we can start off, I guess, with introductions. I'm Jen Venable. I'm with Loudon Soil and Water. I'm the education specialist. I've been there, I guess, since 2019. I guess I'll toss it over to Rich to introduce himself.
Yeah. Thanks, Jen. Rich Wood. I'm with Headwaters Soil and Water Conservation District. I've been here for about 2 years now. Unbelievably, I can't believe it's been 2 years. Welcome everybody. And I'm going to just throw it right over to Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Atkinson. I'm at the Piedmont District, which is Amelia, Nottoway, Prince Edward County. And I am going on 4 years of being the education coordinator here. Lindy.
Good morning. I'm Lindy Durham. I've been the education specialist at Henricopolis since 2011. Doing a lot of interesting things this year, and I'm excited for the new year. Tomorrow is the last day of school at Henrico, so I'm sort of celebrating tonight. That my last program was yesterday. So yeah, glad to be here and to hear what new things are going on. And I will throw to Karen. Karen, did you hear me?
Karen Fetty with the Hanover Caroline Soil Water Conservation District. They cover Caroline and Hanover Caroline in the name. I will go next just because I was talking. Maura Christian, I'm the Education Training Coordinator at the Virginia Association of Soil Water, and I will pass it to Kendall, who's in the room with me.
Sure. I'm Kendall Tyree. I'm the Executive Director of the association. I work really closely with Maura. Very excited to just listen in and learn about the programs and work that y'all are doing and how we can further support you. So I'm going to pass it over to Elizabeth Bennett.
I'm actually looking, I could apply for another job in Virginia, government and DCR that might allow me to keep my.
I think that might be a mistake. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Bennett. I have been Conservation Education Coordinator 23 years, and I also carry load, also term administrative.
Things. All right, do you want to popcorn to someone else?
And I will popcorn down to.
Oh no, I think you cut out right after you said someone's name.
Popcorn to who?
To Courtney Humphreys.
There you go. Cliffhanger.
Sometimes my mic doesn't work, so hopefully you guys can hear me. But yeah, my name is Courtney. I work for Thomas Jefferson Soil and Water, and I've been here for a little bit over a year. But I've been working in environmental education since 2012. And I will send it to Emily.
Hey, I'm Emily. I'm the summer intern. I'm helping with Virginia Soil and Water, just different projects with Envirothon and stuff. And also I'm up in Loudon, so I've been helping Jen with some different programs and yeah. Oh, and I'll popcorn it down to Tim.
Hey, it's Tim Miller with Mountain Castle Soil and Water in Botetourt and Craig. I've been with the district since 2013, I think. And I've just recently acquired some admin duties, so not full-time education anymore, unfortunately, but we'll make it work. Let's go to Lowry.
Hi, Lowry Becker with the Northern X Soil and Water Conservation District. I have been with the districts for 5 years and doing environmental ed since 2011. And then Kelly Brand is also here, and she is our marketing and outreach. She's been here since 2022, October. And I will popcorn it to Madison. Maybe. Has Madison already gone? No.
I don't know if we can hear you, Madison. It's okay. You can put it in the chat and we'll introduce you. Sorry. Excited to see your face though. Kim, have you gone yet?
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen Fetty. I'm with Hanover Caroline Soil and Water. I've been with the district since 2017 as an education specialist, working with Hanover and Caroline counties to develop their MeWe programs and all kinds of other stuff. We're actually working with a NOAA grant right now to develop their ELPs in 3 counties of Virginia. Feeling super positive about that and just looking forward to being involved in any way we can with spreading that across the state. So looking forward to seeing all this progress we're working on.
And then Madison just put in the chat that Madison Morgan started at the beginning of the month with Tri-County Soil and Water. Welcome. I'm very excited you could join and meet you and work with you. I think Kim might be our last introduction.
Hi, I'm Kim Lowther, and I'm with Prince William Soil and Water Conservation District. I started in April, so I'm new as well. But I've been doing environmental ed for 27 years.
Have you here? And then Cindy Miller put in the chat that she's with Robert E. Lee Soil and Water, and she works with Caitlin Savage as well, who does education. Glad you all could be here. All right, Rich and Jen, I can share the agenda. Okay, there we go. Oh, okay. I'll try and talk closer to the mic. Our mic has been having some problems, but yeah, if you can't hear me, please put in the chat, let me know, and I will talk louder. Okay. All right, Rich and Jen, are you ready to move forward?
Yep, let's move on.
Okay, cool. On the screen, you can see we've got our next agenda item, which is general education program updates, and I'll try and roll through these fairly quickly so we can get to the more bulk of our meeting today. But generally, we try and have regular updates on our core programs that we coordinate here at the association. So I'll run through some updates with them here now. So our YCLI, or our Youth Conservation Leadership Institute program, is about to wrap up at the end of this month. For those who are newer, this is a leadership program for high school students, and they really work independently for an entire year, academic year, on developing their own conservation project in the local community they're in. So they work closely with their local soil water district and often have a mentor of some kind. That's either an outside partner or the districts themselves. And they have to get at least 20 hours of volunteer service work for that project. And they also read a Sand County Almanac and do a book discussion and some other written kind of checkpoints along the way. But that's the big part of YCLI. And this year we're kind of doing things a little bit differently. Since COVID has happened, we've switched how we operate the program a bit. and we're going to have a final in-person banquet with these students. So it's a statewide program, so students are coming from all over. So it's not often we get to be together in person. So I'm excited to have this. We're doing it on June 23rd at Randolph-Macon College, and they're going to have kind of a student showcase there, science fair style, where they show off either a computer with some things they worked on or a poster board. So a new format we're excited to try out. And we're wrapping up with 20 students this year. So 8 districts participated in whole. And last meeting, we had talked about ways that we could better demonstrate these student projects to you all, so you can better market the program and kind of engage your communities more on what it really is like as a program. So I wanted to throw it out there if any of you had any suggestions or ways you think you could better, what resources you could use to better advertise YCLI to your high schools you work with or homeschools. And just a general idea, we usually open applications for this program in August, and then it gets jump started in October, November timeframe. So yeah, I wanted to put that out there if you had any suggestions on how we might be able to. It will be June 23rd, Karen, and all are welcome to attend. We only put the invite out to the actual students and the districts that are working with those students, but I will certainly send an invite to you all. We had that on our agenda item as well, to reach out to your district because you're so close. So we'd love to have you come out and see it. I know, May is gone. I can't believe it.
So more just, I still consider myself new. This is Rich Wood. With this program, how many students do you have that's finishing up? 20?
This year we have 20, but historically we've only had about 8 to 10 students. So we're kind of figuring out how to make it work with more demand, I guess, from high schoolers. But yes, we had 20 students this year.
Right. And I think that's my dilemma, is like a lot of things, is how to get some involvement, not just more, but some involvement. And
Right.
I don't know what path I should go down here, because it's just, maybe it's because there's so much on the plate of these students anymore. It's incredible. And I just like to know recruitment. How do those who are involved in this program get their students? I mean, it's probably through another program, whether it's Envirothon or something else, and keep it meaningful. I'm just at a loss to try to get this program going here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've in Loudon, since I've been here, we've started with like 1 student, and then this year I think we had 9, which we could speak to that later, because I don't know if that's the best either. But I feel like, from my experience, a lot of the students will combine something they're already working on. Like, for example, a lot of the students here will we have a science fair in the spring. So the ones that are doing environmental topics have participated in YCLI, so that way they're not like spread too thin, and they're kind of getting, I guess, double counted. But they have to do stuff for YCLI too. That's separate, of course. But so in that way, we've gained students. And then for me, it was it's just kind of been word of mouth, and the Envirothon teams for sure hit them up in the fall from last year, or even kids that are interested, or the Envi-Sci teachers. Envi-Sci teachers have passed along students as well who they know would want to kind of pursue this avenue. And then also, I mean, I've met people, like I do butterfly counts with the local conservation organization. I met students that way, and they wanted to do it. I met them doing stream monitoring as well. So I feel like it's, just one of those things too, that you have, I feel like it was accidental. It's not like I went out there looking for YCLI students, but just talking to them. But definitely engage the schools as much as you can to pass on. And I think that's what happened here this year with more applicants, as more teachers were telling their kids. And we also had the newspaper come and highlight 2 things 2 years. And I think that helped too, because the kids like to see not only like advertisements of what they were doing, like a picture in an article, but also 1 or 2 of them have written letters to the editor as well. So they enjoyed doing that, I think, seeing themselves out there in the newspaper. So just my 2 cents. Other people may have a different experience.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll say for Lindy, at least, I know a lot of your YCLI students have been poster contest participants or people you work with very closely.
Right.
I've
This year
definitely
they
seen that
were.
with your district.
She was, yeah. But my Envirothon students like to participate as well. And for next year, it's so funny. A student friend came with one of my Envirothon team members to our assemblage and grabbed me before he left and said, I want to do that UCLI thing. So it's crazy how people find out about it.
Yeah.
Is it any age high school? Is it typically someone going into their senior year?
Yeah, it's
all
open
over the
for,
place.
yeah, 9th through 12th, but
Okay.
I wonder, we've had a lot of interest this year, and Jen kind of alluded to it, maybe a bigger cohort's not necessarily the best for all the students and districts that are working with them. So I wonder if down the line we might make it to an older age group, but for now it's 9 through 12.
Okay.
And Karen put in the chat a good comment about students who want the Board of Education seal for science and environment. It does work well with that. So
yeah, that's on our in Henrico. We do give credit for that.
Yeah,
for the seal.
so it's a great selling point. Cool. Okay, well, this is good feedback, and I'm going to do a better job of, once these students wrap up, sharing what they've done with a greater audience, such as our education committee, better, so you can kind of get an understanding of what students have worked on, so you can better sell it to people who come to you maybe being interested. So yes,
maybe it would be nice. Maybe it'd be nice more to hear from one of the students who actually went through it.
Yeah, that could be neat. I like that idea.
Don't you also have recordings?
Yes, I do. So this year, because we had such a big cohort, we had them record their presentations on their own, kind of like on Zoom themselves and screen sharing a PowerPoint. So I do have those PowerPoints. So that in itself could be helpful for districts to see what projects they worked on. Okay. Great. Okay, so next on my agenda, our agenda was Youth Conservation Camp, which is coming up very soon. It'll be July 9th through 15th at Virginia Tech. We've got a great group of counselors who are district staff, Department of Forestry, and NRCS employees. So it's a really fun crew that gets to network for the entire week. And if you are not involved this year and have interest in the future, I'd love to kind of connect you so you can learn more about how to maybe be involved as a counselor next year. But just for those who are also new, Youth Conservation Camp is for high schoolers, and the applications open for youth camp in late January, and usually districts have their deadline around mid to end of April. We advertise on Facebook and things like that, our website, but the applicants, the students, apply to the local districts themselves. That's the process for YCC. And a lot of times the districts will sponsor the students, so pay part or the full camper fee, which is $550. So that's why the process goes through local districts, so you can gather the entire group and decide which ones you can or are able to sponsor. This year we have 54 campers, and it will be a fun year. We had talked last meeting about a video to kind of help districts advertise youth camp, and that's still on my mind. Once I get through this year, I'd love to make on Canva. You can make videos, and I have one for Envirothon already. So it's in my mind to do some more marketing, but I'd love your ideas. If you have more thoughts on how I can help you advertise for Youth Conservation Camp, please let me know. We tend to have anywhere from like 35 to 60 to 70 campers. So we're getting back up to our higher end of campers statewide, but we could always do better advertising to get more students involved. And like I mentioned before,
Virginia Board of Education ever disseminate information downward from you guys?
We had their science department do that one time, but not necessarily the whole Board of Ed. So that's a good idea. So they could get it to principals and stuff like that. And just like YCLI, I think a lot of these kids come from Envirothon or have been YCLI students before, or poster contests. So whatever programs you do work with now and are successful at your district, I think that YCC is a great offering to them, at least about here's a next step you can do to learn more and engage with people that are like-minded students. Ooh, Karen, I like that idea. Have alumni go back to their schools and give presentations about how awesome it was. That is a lovely idea. Alumni. And that the idea of alumni sharing ideas brings me back to YCLI as well, because we definitely could do a better job of alumni spotlights and following up with alumni. I'm getting a lot of good homework here. And I know some of you, and you could speak better than I could about how you kind of show off your youth camper or your participants, have them come to a board meeting to kind of share to your directors about how valuable it was for them to be able to attend camp and be sponsored. That is also a good idea, I think. Any other youth conservation camps, advertising, questions? Please feel free to speak up. Okie dokie. Next one, I'll keep very brief because we covered it in more depth last meeting. Poster contest. This is run through the National Association of Conservation Districts. They pick a new theme each year. This year is One Water. The deadline for districts to submit their poster winners to my office is October 16th. So we have our next meeting in October. That'll be just before the deadline for this. And then for those who are new as well, if you have any scouts, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, who participate at the local level, let me know how many you have, even if they're not your winners, when you submit your poster winners to me, so I can get the correct number of poster contest patches that we have, and I mail those to you or bring them to annual meeting. So keep in mind the scout patch for poster contest, and we can talk more maybe at the end if there's more time about general scout patches, but I did not put it on the agenda this time just for time's sake. Next is Envirothon, and I will say we have created a Envirothon steering committee with plans for them to meet actually at Graves Mountain. But if you have other thoughts on those, please do speak up now. But we've had a lot going on since our last meeting in February with Envirothon, and I think a lot of people on this call can attest to that. There's been a lot of events and trainings and competitions. And most recently we had our state Envirothon competition at Virginia State University, May 21st, 22nd, and we had 17 teams compete, and a lot of people on this call came to volunteer. So thank you so much for making that possible and coming out. We had the most beautiful weather, and it was a great day. We had the station testing out at their Randolph Farm area, so it was a ton of fun. Our overall winning team is Jamestown High School from the Colonial Soil and Water District, so they are going to be our state representative at the international competition, which is going to be in New Brunswick, Canada next month. And they are passports, flights ready to go and very excited. And this year, just in case anyone's curious, the International Envirothon has added Singapore to the mix. So right now it's United States, Canada. I think there's 3 or 4 Chinese teams, and then Singapore. So just a cool selling point if you ever are trying to talk to a team about how big Envirothon is. It's gotten much bigger, and they hope to expand to even more countries. So pretty nifty that there's some new countries on board. Yes, I did want to throw it over to our intern, Emily, though, because she has been working on some Envirothon resource projects. We did get a chance to talk to coaches at the state Envirothon, just gathering feedback on what would be very helpful for them to have to help their teams thrive and practice their oral presentation and study general things. So we are lucky to have Emily this summer, who is willing and excited to help us create some of those resources. So can I turn it over to you, Emily, to kind of share about what you plan to work on this summer?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I was lucky enough I was able to go to all like levels of the competition. So I feel like I got a really good overview of how it all works and everything. So that was really cool to see. So yeah, I'm kind of working on different things. A lot of the feedback was actually like look at other states to like see what their like boards are like and everything, and what resources they get to study from. So just like kind of reinventing what we have right now. Or I guess not reinventing, but just kind of like organizing it more and everything like that. So that's one thing I'm working on, and getting like the test questions, like which ones worked, which ones didn't, all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, the feedback was really good overall, I thought, at the state level competition. Everyone thought the tests overall were like very fair and everything. But they just were wanting more like resources and videos and stuff like that.
Cool. Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to work with you on that, and have anything we can provide to the students and teams is going to be helpful. It's a bit overwhelming, especially for new teams, to look at all they have to study. So giving them a more realistic starting place, at least to study, is going to be fantastic. So thank you for taking that on, and we hope to share updates about what you all, or what we work on at Graves Mountain and the next meeting too.
Definitely.
Any other Envirothon questions before I move on to some more things? Okay. I won't pull it up, but next on the agenda, I'm going to give on behalf of the new DCR education specialist, and now it's going to be specialists. There's two, but brand new department, well, sort of department at DCR. They have a new education specialist named Cassiopeia Camara. She goes by Cassie, and she wanted to attend today but had another obligation, so she gave me an update to share. So they actually have just hired a second education specialist at the state. Her name is Lori Schoenweiser, and she's going to start end of June 26th. So Cassie's background is more strategic planning and big picture collaboration, and their second hire comes from a more education background. So she served as a public educator, a professional development facilitator for VCU, a satellite data curriculum developer for NASA, and an educator for USFS. So really cool combination of backgrounds there. And they are working on developing a strategic plan for statewide education, environmental education stakeholders. They're starting that process this month, I believe, and I'm going to serve on that committee, and they're going to start the formal process later this summer. So I can talk in a little bit here more about that, but they actually have hopes to join us at Graves Mountain this August at the Employee Association training to do a session on what they're working on and how districts can be a part of that strategic plan, and we can bolster resources. Oh, and Karen just put in the chat that the second hire, Lori, was a Hanover County teacher. Very cool. I didn't know that. So lots of new things happening with DCR and environmental education, but I wanted to share that with you all. And hopefully Cassie and Lori will be able to meet us in person at Graves Mountain. And I will let you know if there are more opportunities to engage with that process. I think they're still getting their feet wet about all the different stakeholders that are involved in environmental education in Virginia, but I will definitely keep this group updated on how we can be more of a voice to help shape that. That was a lot of very quick updates, but does anyone have any questions on anything that we just discussed? Okay. Please feel free to interrupt me or any of us chairs to share anything that's on your mind. But the next item I wanted to share is I'm very excited about. It's a fresh new resource that we just finalized this week. It's the education survey that a lot of you filled out, and thank you for doing so. Like I said, we just really got these results finalized beginning of this week, so I've not had a chance to fully dig my teeth into it yet, but I wanted to share with this group here, and also I emailed it to you, and I would follow up after this meeting with another email with it included. It's a great, pretty broad survey of what districts are currently focusing on and able to do at their districts right now for education. So let me see if I can get this pulled up. So to my knowledge, I don't know the last time we've done a survey like this, just because I am still relatively new. But myself and Rich and Jennifer and our foundation, our education foundation leadership here at the association, wanted to kind of get a check-in about where districts are at in terms of education programming, because I think since COVID has started, a lot of the programs have either lost participation or just there's been a shift in what districts can and are able to do in terms of education. So this survey is a great kind of check-in about what's happening across the state. So I am very pleased that we had 41 responses out of 47 districts. That's pretty darn good for a busy group of soil water districts. So thank you. I think everyone here probably participated. So kudos to everyone for filling out the survey, period. I'm not going to go through in detail. It's a 10-page document just for time's sake, but I think the value of this document is going to be that you will have this to refer back to in terms of what other districts have put in here, how they do their MIWIs, what new ideas they've been implementing and ways they've marketed their programs. So I think the document itself is going to be the resource for you all. And then the overall goal is going to be how we can use this and these responses to help create a new education binder. It's a digital education binder. But for those who've been around since 2018, when it was last done, we had in 2018 put out a fairly long document that was called the 20, I'll pull it up right now. Here it is. Okay. So the goal of the survey is to kind of start the process of updating this education resource binder. And it's a very long document that I believe, to my knowledge, it was unveiled at an annual meeting training. Okay. But this is kind of a table of contents of what is covered. It's a resource for brand new education staff or staff who've been around who want to tap their, or, dip their toes into a different program they've not often worked with. So it's a long resource about lesson plans for soil, for example, or history of districts, how to do an Enviroscape model. All of those kind of things are covered in this long document. So keep that in mind when we're going through these survey results about how you might have interest in updating that education binder. Okay. So again, I'm not going to go through it all, but I will just read through the highlights of each question. And interestingly enough, I think this one is very telling in terms of workload for staff. We asked how many districts have a full-time education person, how many are part-time or full-time with other duties, and only 20% of districts that participated had a full-time education staffer. So when we're talking about why aren't all districts doing the poster contest and why aren't all doing scout patches, that right there shows that not all districts have the staff to do all of the programs. So
excuse me, Maura, can you pull that back up on the screen?
Oh, sorry. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, I had switched screens. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, no, thank you for saying something. So yes, 20% of districts that participated had a full-time education staffer, with over half having a full-time staffer with other responsibilities like technical, admin, BCAP we heard earlier. So we all wear a lot of hats is what I took away from this. And then the next question asked, which of the following education programs did you participate in the last year? So the last program year, essentially. And it was not surprising to me to see, but the biggest programs that most districts do is elementary education programming, youth conservation camp, student scholarship, a field day of some kind. So that's whether that's an ag day or a farm day, things like that were the most popular. I made a little chart down here to kind of just show the most offered programs across the state. Just to gauge, this is going to be helpful for our foundation leadership team to see kind of where the emphasis is for programming across the state. And then there's lots of other programs that the survey participants wrote in. Summer camps, rain barrel workshops, there's so many things that districts do that is not captured here as well, but ones that have come up recently are those high school career fairs, STEM fairs, Earth Day, the education capsule. So even if you get nothing out of this, here's a whole bunch of ideas of things that you could, look into to expand your offerings at your district. And then the next question was, which of the following programs above are a priority for your district? So this might come from your district board of directors. It might come from just staff workload abilities, any of those things. But at the very top is kind of the most popular responses. Some said everything's priority, which I love that. But more realistically, a lot of people wrote field days, farm days, in-school programs, MeWes, and a couple answers particular said MeWes were a director priority, which I found interesting. Envirothon, and then scholarship and mini grants. So those were kind of the most popular answers, and I won't go through all of this, but there is a whole bunch of answers that I put in red that bolded the meat of those responses that put in what each district that participates priorities of programming were. I was interested to see some said middle school programming, because I think that's a struggle for many districts as well. And then the next question was, are there any of the education programs that you would like or need additional information in order to be able to implement at your district? And overwhelmingly, a lot said MeWes and how districts operate. And, you know, specifically, there were some about how to do them in Southern Rivers, which I was happy to see, because I also would love to know of more opportunities for funding in Southern Rivers. And will do my best to kind of put that on my higher priority list to research. And even, you know, more happily is that there was a question coming up here about how does your district operate MeWes, and there were some really great responses. So this document in itself is going to be a great resource for you to see how other districts do their MeWes and how they partner with other organizations. And a lot of people also put in wanting more information on Stewardship Week, which I'm going to put Jen on. And, you know, maybe we could do a better job. I know you really do some great work with NECD Stewardship Week, so we can work together maybe on better showcasing how other districts can work with that. People wanted more information on field days, teacher mini grants, and then middle school, high school programming. Of course, there was many more answers, but that was kind of the overwhelmingly popular response. And then Envirothon came up a good bit, how to start a new Envirothon team. And then there was a question about what is your most requested education program from schools or other groups that you work with. A lot of answers were ones you probably would expect: Enviroscape, watershed, soil quality lessons, and then a couple more specific things like Kids in the Creek, soil tunnel, ag in the classroom day things. So these are the most requested education programs that we heard in this survey. In this one, I'm not going to go through, but I will send this out to you and hope you use this to think about how you operate MeWes, or if you want to start a MeWe. There were some really great responses about how districts operate their MeWe events. And they range from middle school to elementary and partners. So a lot of great response on this. I was very pleased to see people took time to really detail how they do them. And I do know that coming up is the next, well, I think it might have closed already. The next round of MeWe grants from DCR is about to close, but I'm going to be on that panel, and I'm excited to learn more to be able to share with you all how to work with the writing a grant for DCR's MeWe. And not so much covered in the survey, but one that I hope to be able to follow up with is if districts would be willing to share their lesson plans about what offerings you give to classes, so we can share that with the greater state so they can utilize those for new ideas and updated programming. Majority of people said yes, they'd be willing to share their lesson plans. So I have those names, and I'm excited to follow up with those folks, because 2018 has a great, I guess, compilation of just different lesson plans for different programmings that could certainly use an update, especially after COVID, with, you know, new digital programming that you all do and virtual lessons that you did and might continue to do. And 36% people said they don't work in schools very often. So maybe we can create some tools together that help them get into classrooms, or work with volunteers to train them and, you know, get into classrooms with them, or interns. And this is more of a question that I wanted to gather. We wanted to gather new and innovative ways that district education positions work with their communities on, you know, different events, community events. So this question has a whole range of ideas for what districts do to work with the community, maybe more so adult education. So for example, a water-wise home make and take workshop for rain barrels, cost share breakfast for farmers. So even if it's a technical response, this is still something that I think education plays a role in all aspects of district work. Yeah, Arbor Day poster photo contest, tree plantings, underground classroom, new landowner workshops, Envirothon workshops, Earth Day events, partners with county and extension events. There's a lot of really great ideas here that I will hope that you take a look at after this meeting. Yeah, a lot of great green breakfast, webinars. And then the next question asked about how you promote your education programming. Majority of responders said direct correspondence to schools, makes sense. Social media and on the website. So if there are ideas that you have while we're going through this about, trainings on how I can do mailers for education programs, please speak up, and I would love to hear your feedback, because I'm always looking for ways I can help create new resources for you, or new connections with districts who are doing some of these things. And some other responses were, promoting things through local parks and recreation, tabling events, and then partner email listservs such as extension. So people that are already putting things out there, how can you get on their list to include your information? And then this is another question about kind of new and innovative ways that you're reaching your schools or communities through your outreach. And a lot of it was relationship building, which takes time, but is the most impactful, I would say. Using things like Envirothon as an in for a lot of these other programs, for example. I thought this was interesting. I think this was Peter Francisco, their 21st Century grant. They, partnered with the schools already doing a 21st Century grant, and they were able to go into the classrooms and help with that. And that was a great in for different relationships and programming to do in the future. Obviously reaching out to principals or teachers directly. This is interesting from Virginia Dare, that they have an interesting program that targets specific underserved communities. So that's always a goal I think that all of us want, is to how we can better reach everyone in our community, not just the ones that are responding to your emails and coming out to events on their own. So they have an at-risk preschool program that they get teachers to allow them to bring a book in and have volunteers read books in the classroom. And that's specifically for underserved schools and students. And then MeWe teacher training and things like that.
Rather have spaghetti for lunch today? Oh, I'm sorry.
And we are nearing the end of this. Sorry, I've been talking a lot. But the question was, how do you track education program participation numbers at your district? A lot of you participants said they have their own tracking document. Some use the association's tracking spreadsheet that we send out periodically, and then some do not track at all. So this is helpful for me to know, because I know moving forward with DCR's new education specialist on board, they may be coming to us someday requiring this information to be shared. So knowing where we're at now is really helpful for me to be able to decide how we move forward with that, and how we better collect information so we can share the collective impact of everything we're doing across the state. And then the last questions were training ideas, which we will go into soon, but the ideas in this survey were how to best reach out to community members for collaborative support, wanting to see other lesson plans, which I support that, behavior issues and after school programs, and MeWe's and organizing Envirothon. Okay, these are our last two questions, I promise. Which of the following professional environmental education organizations are you involved with? fairly large number are with VAEE, but I would say a lot of people said they used to be involved with VAEE and are not so much going to the conferences anymore. So that is a group that I hope to tap into more and learn about the value of being involved with these groups. But that was something of interest that I saw, as people said, I used to be with VAEE, but not so much anymore. And last were a couple just comments that I put in here that were related to scholarships or just asking for ways we can collaborate and hear success stories from each other and keeping the community involved. So I know that was a lot and that was very quick going through that long resource, but I'm gonna send it out to everybody and I hope you take a look at it and send me your feedback. Send me what stood out to you so we can start to work towards updating that education binder. What would be of value for me to focus on? What would be helpful for you as you know, to help you do your job. That's what I really am here for, is to help you do your job. So any immediate comments on the education survey results?
I've got a comment real quick more. Rich Wood from Headwaters. To everybody listening or is in on this, is there anything to anyone who's been here longer than I have that jumps out at you, that surprised you, what you read, what you from these results? More of something, less of something? I'm just curious. I'm still trying to digest all this. There's a lot of good detailed information. I want to thank everybody who responded for this, because I think we can get some mileage out of this. I really do. It's a matter of how we do it. But the other comment I had was, and it had to do with a lot of these responses. For me, it's hard to juggle the month of April. That really comes down to it. Stewardship Week, the Envirothon, the scholarships are due. It seems as if I can never concentrate on one thing, and I can't give its due to a lot of these other programs, because I like to do more on Stewardship Week, but it falls right in line with the Envirothon time and the scholarships. So, and anything that has to do with Earth Day as well, Arbor Day is all in that same format. So it's just a matter of, and then when you throw that at the teachers, educators, anybody, the community, they really have to just kind of pick and choose what they're going to do, because they can't do it all. But I just find myself struggling a little bit trying to make sure I give all these programs their due process. And it's just, and it seems like it's all within like a 3-week period for me.
Yes, I concur. I feel the same way. So that could be a discussion of how can we utilize interns better to help prepare social media posts for the off season, so you can utilize those things in April. Just an idea. A couple people are saying that forget juggling, it's hard to survive April, but promoting programs earlier, such as the scholarship, so that gives you some extra time to turn that around. Things like that are helpful.
Yeah, and just from experience for anyone new, I mean, it takes a couple times around, in my opinion, to go through these things to learn. You know, I think every district is different because you probably have a different size school system or whatever it is you're getting most of your education experience with. But you know, I put on the calendar, for example, like, you know, scholarships will be due, but then, you know, one year we got 9 applicants. And then, so that takes going through the review process longer than it would have been when we usually only get 2 or 3. So you just never know what you're going to get. So I've tried really hard to start to buffer in some days, because it always seems to fill up. Like you think, oh, this will just be a 1-day thing. And then try to schedule it that way, because yeah, you put in a lot of extra hours around in the spring for sure. Luckily summer slows down a little bit. So
yeah, but a good discussion item for moving forward about just juggling all the programs and prioritizing what is important to your district.
Yeah, that's true too. Picking priorities if you can't do it all,
Right.
you do
That's
a
something
few things well instead of everything. Sorry.
Yeah.
Karen.
I totally agree with the choosing priorities. It's tough because things like YCLI and Envirothon are so important, especially in terms of reaching our kids that are going to be committed to changing the world. However, I know just speaking from our district, I have to remember that I'm encouraged to reach certain numbers in our outreach to satisfy our funding municipalities. And so, it's very hard to prioritize things that we feel very passionately about, like YCLI and Envirothon and these activities that may take a considerable amount of our time, but not reach as many people. And so that's always difficult for us. I don't want to ever say something isn't worth it, because it is worth it, especially when we're trying to reach send kids to Virginia Tech one day to join our ranks in environmental science. But it is tough, when we have not every district has a dedicated education specialist, and even those who are dedicated have to be mindful of their municipalities that require reaching certain numbers to continue funding.
Well said.
Yeah, I don't know if this is helpful or not, but I've kind of looked at different ways to meet those numbers. I mean, I do a lot of in-person stuff in the school, which racks up some numbers, but like with YCLI, the newspaper has this article about YCLI. I have no idea how many people that reached, but it's a different perspective of how some of this information gets out there, instead of just counting the heads in the classroom. Same thing with creating videos for YouTube, educational videos, or even if we were to take some of the YCLI videos and post them, like we have a YouTube channel at Loudon Soil and Water, and just even counting the view count there, I'm like, that reached some people. Somebody is looked at that, so just thinking about other ways, even with social media, like how do you quantify how much that post reached people in, I guess, a meaningful way. But I think we do a lot kind of on the side, and we're always used to counting, like, okay, how many people came to this event, how many did this, how many this. But there's other ways that you could quickly reach people to maybe meet some of those numbers if they were in agreement of how do you count this, like, because I think other ways are as effective as well, and you reach different populations that way too, perhaps. Just a thought.
Okay. Well, I'm excited about the survey results. I know it's just the starting point to how we can continue to improve our resources and develop new things and bolster what we already have. So a lot still more will be done with those survey results. I just wanted to share with you now because we just got them in. So if you have thoughts after this, please send them to Jen, Rich, and I. We'd love to utilize your voice and how we offer new materials and go forward with this. I'll just go forward with the agenda. I was going to share it, but so next on the agenda was upcoming trainings. And the next upcoming in-person training that we're going to focus on is at Graves Mountain for the Employees Association. And I have two ideas that I've kind of worked with the Employee Association and heard that they would be interested in us offering, that I wanted to share with you all for your feedback and ideas. The first being one I already mentioned, with the DCR new education specialists sharing about their environmental literacy plans. Still don't know what that will totally look like, but they are excited to come out and do a session about what they're working on and kind of hear feedback from education specialists across the state on how your voice can be included in the planning for the future of the state's environmental education plans. So does that sound of interest to people on this call, hearing from them?
Absolutely. Especially since we're working on a grant from NOAA that is going to be writing the ELPs in 3 school districts in Virginia. And after talking with Cassie briefly and just falling in love with her energy, I would really love to be involved in a bigger way in the whole ELP implementation and getting these plans written across the state.
So great. That is great to hear. And Cassie has a lot of energy, so it will be a fun session no matter what. I'm excited to bring their new hire on as well and work with her. So good to hear positive feedback on that. We'll move forward with that and then keep you updated how that session develops. And then the second session that I was hoping that I would get feedback on from you all is one totally dedicated to Envirothon. We had talked about this, Kendall and I, that I think we're very overdue for a time to just talk about Envirothon. Yes, we have the Envirothon steering committee that meets occasionally, but an in-person session is so much more valuable. So it would almost be like a mock Envirothon steering committee where it would be very open for conversation. I would obviously share updates from the National Envirothon, information for next year. And I think it would be especially great to have each area host for next year be there. So we can have a lot of stakeholders for next year's Envirothon together, dedicated to just conversations about Envirothon. And that would be part of it. I was also thinking it could be cool to have a panel of some kind for different innovative Envirothon happenings across the state. Specifically, I was thinking, Rich, if you could come and talk about middle school, for example, or someone also working on middle school, and different things like how certain districts have engaged new coaches or how you work with your teams to provide training. Just things like that would be, I think, really helpful to have people hear from, especially new staff who are learning how to dip their toes into Envirothon. Does that very brief overview of what it could look like sound of interest to people? We could even have a mock Envirothon competition if we want to. That could be fun.
See that getting competitive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if that is of interest, I will continue to work through more details. If you have suggestions for people that could be highlighted on a panel, I would love to hear because I want to, if you know of great things happening, please let me know so we can highlight them. But I will continue to think through this and
can I make a comment?
Please.
I know that for the Envirothon, Stephanie DiNicola, she actually does a training every year for the students. Mm-hmm. And that is really helpful for the students that are participating in Area 2. So I don't know if you want to contact her or ask her about that. But she does a lot with Envirothon. She has her own group, and then this past year, she ran the Envirothon for our area, and she just had a lot of great ideas.
Yes, Stephanie will be a great addition to that panel. I will certainly include her. And especially her being last year's host for Area 2, I think it would be great for districts to hear how to successfully and streamline the planning process for an area host, and that would also apply to local districts too. I know a lot of new districts have already reached out to me who are hosting next year or down the line and have some anxiety about it. So I'd love to have a district perspective because I can do my best to share how to do something, but if you've done it before and you're in those shoes, it's much more valuable to hear from those people. I think that could be cool for Stephanie to share how to successfully and
I think so
too. Least stressfully host.
I think you're right. That's a good angle of taking that training of tips and tricks for hosting an Envirothon.
Right.
And certainly Stephanie can help, but there are others who've been top notch, and area competitions can vary. To Kim and I think Karen's comment, you're right. That training that Stephanie does is an area training. It is Area 2 training. Every area is, per our Dominion funds, requested to have an area training and an area competition. Stephanie does hers so early that and opens it up to everybody, that it is of real value to a lot of teams. And certainly something we can talk about on this panel, that, right, if Area 5, you do a training, let's make sure if it's possible, you can open it up to other areas also to come.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking now that how to host Envirothon could be a panel, and it could include things like middle school. It could include a local, and how to utilize partners and things like that. Just spitballing, but
you've got so many good directions.
There's too much to cover, so it's a matter of just focusing it in on what would be, consistent and would make sense. Well, it's always good to talk out loud, so thank you, everyone. Okay, so I will certainly keep this group updated as we continue to develop these 2 trainings, and there's going to be a employee association training subcommittee meeting coming up at the end of this month. So if you have ideas before that, please let me know. I'm involved in that committee for just general training things as well. So I'm happy to share anything you have with that group. Okay, and then, obviously as we move forward, we would love to have a virtual training of some kind. And I know we've brainstormed ideas at every committee meeting about training needs from this group in terms of technology and dealing with behaviors of students and just general education training topics that I do hope to get to in the fall. And then we go into our in-person annual meeting in December that we had a planning meeting yesterday actually about. So as we get through Grays Mountain, we'll start to nail down what trainings will be held at our in-person annual meeting in December. Okay. That is all I had to share about training, but I would love any comments you all have before I move on to the wrapping up round robin education sharing session. Anything? Okay. Well, that's all I had for content today. And Rich and Jen, I can throw it over to you if you want to facilitate any kind of round robin education sharing as we wrap up.
I unless we heard from anybody else, I didn't have anything else to offer out, Maura. I mean, you've covered pretty much everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to ask a question, a burning question, especially some of the new people, I'm sure something popped in your head maybe that you didn't ask. I know I was there at one point and still am there. So if anyone.
I have a question. Since I'm new, my district has a lot of schools. And so I'm trying to find out what is the best way to reach as many people as possible. And so my previous predecessor, she actually ran an education teacher training for MeWes. So I'm trying to get a grant to do that again this coming year. But I'm having a hard time prioritizing what different components of different education programs I should do to reach as many students as possible. Like going into schools is not necessarily feasible because I have so many schools to service. So I don't know if anybody else has that challenge.
I can speak to that a little bit. Our schools are spread out throughout one county, and we find it's easier to students to patient during set aside like water or teach about watersheds and about the watershed quality age journey wildlife, have the schools to bus them to unpurchasable purpose built on our fairgrounds, and that way we take care of all at the time. Don't have to travel. It's not feasible on our time to not travel to the school presentation class. And I agency partners, volunteers, or teachers to make that
happen. Okay.
Did you get a lot of that, Kim? I know Elizabeth
no,
was broke up.
I had a hard time hearing that.
Yeah, it was broke up. So Yeah, we
So
might
Elizabeth,
have to kind of recap that, Elizabeth. You broke up in a lot of that.
can you maybe
Okay,
type it in a chat?
I can definitely type it in a chat, and you're welcome to email me at any time. I apologize for the connection, but I will go ahead and type that in a chat.
Thank you so much.
I know there were some ideas. You all have the expertise here going into schools and managing those kind of programs, but I know in the survey there was some response about like education capsules. So how can you make things at your district to
Yeah,
distribute schools?
we have education capsules. We have several. And I just don't know how to really promote them. Like, do I just contact principals or I mean, it seems like since COVID, some of the use of them has fallen off. A lot of teachers know about the watershed models we have. We have 4 of them. So we have a lot of them that we can send out to teachers, especially for MWEs, that they're doing in their classrooms. And what we're trying to focus on for the teacher training grant is to reach as many Title I schools as possible, and train the teachers to then do the programming in their school. So we're making it more site-based, and that's how Prince William County wants to go. They want to make the MWEs more site-based instead of, going out on a field trip to do a MWE day, which is really not how NOAA has set it up.
Kim, could I speak to that real quick?
Yeah, please.
We are making the same change. And I really do think that it does line up with what NOAA wants. I know they talk about that field experience, but it doesn't have to be away from school. So the field experience is the core essential element of any MWE. But the classroom pieces in advance and then the action projects kind of surrounding that field experience can be done on the campus. So I think, especially since COVID and the transportation issues that many school districts are finding, as well as staffing, to be able to do a field trip and have the students chaperoned properly, all of that has become a challenge, especially since COVID. So I think it's a good thing that we are not trying to get literally every kid in the stream, but finding our campus resources that we can use to create meaningful watershed experiences that will lead into a better understanding of the streams.
Yeah, and I think that definitely training the teachers, and then the tricky part is getting the teachers to implement what they've been trained in. So that's where I'm at right now, is following up with the teachers to see, were they able to implement the stuff that they were trained on. And I know for a fact that a couple of the schools have done it, because I've gone to their like field day that they had organized. But we trained like 23 teachers or 25 teachers, and I know only of like 3 or 4 schools that have implemented the MWEs. So, there's disparity there, and I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way to really get buy-in from the teachers, since they're so taxed with everything else, and trying to find out how to make MWEs seem exciting and fun and engaging and not a burden.
Well, one of the things that we're having to address with our considering these ELPs is in fact to make sure that a flexible and adaptable plan for these MWEs within an ELP, it considers the fact of a sad fact of teacher turnover these days. So not only do you have difficulty because teachers are overwhelmed, you have difficulty getting teachers to follow through on their training that we provide and actually use the materials. But unless it is part of their mandated curriculum and part of their pacing guides, they aren't going to be required to do it. So right. We're trying to make sure that the ELPs will include enough flexibility to allow for teacher turnover and, just address that very problem you were speaking of, Kim.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear somebody else is in the same boat as I am. Thank you.
Anyone else want to share anything with the group about something that you've been working on or have questions for the group that we can support each other in?
I'd like to share something real quick. I don't know if you guys are aware that DWR has a new education person in place. Her name is Courtney Hollicher, and she is really bringing Project Wild back to life. We did a facilitator training earlier this week that was 2 days long, and had 14 participants there, and she did a fantastic job. So if you're looking to bring Project Wild back to your area, reach out to her. She's super enthusiastic. Cassie was there, so she's kind of like Cassie. They have really good energy. I see environmental education in the state doing very well this year with those two in their positions.
Also, and I'm sorry to interject again, but also there is a new person at DOF in the Project Learning Tree position, and her name is Leslie Newman. And she's, we actually worked with her while she was at Friends of the Rappahannock on this NOAA grant. And she's super knowledgeable and passionate and sweet. So hopefully, I know we all still miss Paige Hutchinson so much, but I think Leslie will be a great asset to Project Learning Tree.
Yeah, I second that too, Karen. I just became a facilitator for Project Wild as well, Kelly, with Courtney back in March. And I'm looking forward to becoming a facilitator for PLT with a lot of these alphabet programs, because I've said it to this group before. In the position I'm in here in Headwaters, which is Augusta County, City of Stanton and Waynesboro, I'm never going to be able to get in there and teach all these kids. It's not my goal, not anymore at my age. My point is to try to train the trainer and teach the teachers. It's really probably one of the biggest goals of this education's program. It's the only way that we're going to be able to possibly meet the needs. Those alphabet programs are one way that I'm going to be able to hopefully connect with other association programs to reintroduce all the stuff that's sitting out there, whether it's a scholarship program, whether it's the youth conservation camp. But I've got to get in with the teachers. And if I can get in with these teacher training workshops, I will use those as a leverage to the other programs. I'm looking at right now for the fall, some kind of open house, a smorgasbord education open house of everything that our district offers, and to really explain, what are these programs? What are your deadlines? How do I get involved in them? But the teachers and the educators, not just formal class teachers, non-public teachers and non-formal teachers. It is the #1 priority for me in this role in this district, because it's the only way I think that we're going to be able to meet some of the needs of what's out there. So I'm going to use those alphabet programs to get the workshops going. I've already heard from several schools and pre-service as well, because we're going to be working with Bridgewater College and Mary Baldwin College for college students to get that going. It is, I keep stressing it, it is my door to get into some other programs. It's how I use the Envirothon for other things as well. So yeah, I highly encourage you to get involved in these other outstanding national programs, because they have a lot to offer.
And there's absolutely no reason for us to reinvent the wheel when we are finding the elements of our school district's ELPs.
Correct.
Project Learning Tree has fantastic resources, and I especially love the Green Schools investigations for the high school and middle school level. And that really does lend well to finding action projects and that kind of stuff. So we should not be reinventing the wheel, but rather collaborating and pulling all these resources together in a way that works locally for these school districts.
Rich, I have a question for you. How do you get the open house advertised? Do you go to the principals, or do you go directly to the teachers, or do you have like a cohort of teachers that you already are in contact with?
I don't know how to answer that yet, Kim. This is the first time I'm trying this. So in all these other programs I've been promoting in my short time here, and others on this call can probably tell you more about it, is I have had very little success. I'm going to be honest with everybody with trying to work with principals. The information just doesn't get down to the people that I need to deal with. Do I work with curriculum coordinators? Yeah, the same thing happens. Sometimes it doesn't get down there. I'm finding myself working with the familiar faces I've worked with before, whether they're FFA teachers or whether they're Envirothon coaches or whatever, to get my foot in a door. I'm not going to neglect and overlook the principals, because in some of our schools, we have to contact them, or we have to contact some coordinator. We're not even allowed to contact the teachers directly. We got to go through them, and they'll disseminate the information. So I'm excited about this idea that I'm kind of formulating, but to be honest with you, Kim, I'm not quite sure how this is going to come together and how I'm going to get the word out yet.
So you might want to check in. I know with Loudoun County in August, before the kids come back, the teachers get lots of training and orientations, and maybe some of you who have been teachers can speak to that too. But we've been invited to come and present at that session, but in past years that invitation didn't come. So it might be worthwhile though to call and ask if you can have 5 minutes, even just to go through slideshow of here's what we have to offer, or hand out flyers, or because there you have everybody in a captured audience, because they all have to come back to school. So so that's one option too you might want to look into.
Yeah, I think and thank you for the comment, Madison, about getting in touch with STEM coordinators. That's a very good idea as well. I just find out with any of these programs, if you don't have the right contact to start with, it just seems like it can get very frustrating, because all you do is throw stuff out and then nothing ever sticks. You don't get any application for scholarships. You don't get any information back or active participation. So I'm still trying to feel my way through this, but I'm not gonna let that deter me. I'm going to keep going at it and try different aspects of this to try and get these programs and this information out there. But I still think, I don't know, I still think people have a little identity crisis with us. They don't know who we are and what we do. And I have to make sure I'm constantly supporting that and energizing people, saying, yeah, we have a lot of programs. And by the way, there's a word in there that really they like, and that's free. We have a lot of free programs. I've even tried to, right in my building, right behind me where I sit, is the office for Augusta County School District. And I'm trying to work with them to get into some of their in-service, their professional development days. But some of those are planned 2 years ahead. I can't even get my time in with them. But as Jen said, maybe it's just a matter of 5 minutes of their time instead of a whole session. So yeah, I'm always open to ideas from everybody as to how to keep getting the word out, and how do we actually reach the people that we need to.
Okay. Well, I will stay in the line if they don't have any questions, but thank you for coming, everyone. I'll follow up with an email about some notes that I took from what we talked about. I'll follow up with the survey results as well. And I also always like to just throw it out there that if you have general questions, you want feedback about a specific idea, you can always email the education listserv and it will go out to the list, and you can ask for feedback, ask for responses. I think that we could better utilize that listserv for idea sharing, collaboration, all that good stuff. So if you have questions how to do that, you can connect with me, but you just email education@baswcd.org and it will go out to the list and people can respond to you if they have any feedback. So
and let me just reiterate what Maura said earlier. If anybody's got any questions or an idea, you don't need to wait to the next meeting. Throw it back at Jen or myself or Maura. That's what we're here. That's why we even have a committee, is that we can kind of regurgitate and recycle this information each and every day, each and every week. We don't have to wait to quarterly meetings to actually bring ourselves up to speed. So that's why we're here, folks.
Thank you. Well said. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Hope to see you. Our next meeting is October 5th, Thursday, October 5th at 10 a.m. So hope to see everyone there. We'll send some, reminders as it gets closer, but thank you for joining and have a great end of your week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Jen and Rich. I appreciate it.